1971. Located off K96 on Greenwich Road. Jewelry Savers.
At 406. Broadcasting from the heart of the nation. The next generation in conservative talk radio. This is the Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier.
Why, yes it is. What is up, my friends? Welcome into it. It is your pre-Friday celebration, the greatest day of the entire week. I know you're excited about it. You see the light at the end of the tunnel. We are going into St. Patrick's Day weekend a few days away. I know it's technically on Monday. You're going to celebrate this weekend. Don't worry, we'll have some fun with that a little bit later. First and foremost, if you missed us yesterday because of college basketball tournaments going on across many of the stations that we broadcast on, then I missed you too. Welcome back. We are ready to rock and roll today, though, as those tournaments still are going in many places, but nonetheless, we are here ready to rock and roll again with our flagship station. So welcome aboard. It is The Voice of Reason. My name's Andy Hoosier, broadcasting out of the heart of the nation in Wichita, Kansas, but we are on so many great stations around. So great to have you, your millennial general, reporting for duty like we do
it live
every single day here on the show. Got a big one lined up today too. There's a lot of news obviously from yesterday. Today we are just day and a half away now from a potential government shutdown. And yes, we will break all that down. What is the latest conversation right now in the Senate? Apparently, they're trying to do a vote. Democrats were hardline against it. Now, not so much. And that's pretty much expected when you had 80-plus Democrats from the House side end up voting for the bill because they realize they cannot be the party that shuts down the federal government and makes everybody die in the streets without the government there.
We're all gonna die because of you!
So that being said, we'll cover all that in just a moment. Donald Wilkie will be joining us at the bottom of the hour. He is the author of the book Freedom Revealed. We've had him on the show before. We'll talk about Trump's tactics. What is the long-term goal of the Trump administration? And while things are a bit shaky right now, stock market kind of hitting a reset button. We have the tariff conversation. We have the Democrats pretending to be relevant. We have a foreign policy issue that's going on. A lot of news that's happening. Then what's the long-term Trump tactic to make all of this fall into place and bring in that golden age that Donald Trump has planned for him to do? That being said, though, there was some really, did you hear?
What's trending today?
There was an interview with Howard Lutnick, our Commerce Secretary, on what the plan was with taxes. Now, obviously, this is not part of the continuing resolution that's being voted on like today or tomorrow in the Senate to hopefully prevent a government shutdown from Friday, even though we don't really care whether the government shutdown happens or not, because, who really cares? We do every weekend without the government anyways, but that's not the point. Outside of that conversation, there's still the ongoing tax conversation. We have the taxes for the Trump tax cut extensions that expire at the end of this year. So in the next year's budget for 2026 that starts in October, we are discussing that. We have the new Trump tax cut plans with the no tax on tips, no tax on Social Security, no tax on overtime, which sounds like a great plan. But apparently, we're not just stopping there. Howard Lutnick, Commerce Secretary, sitting down for an interview recently, saying that Trump's ultimate goal agenda for the administration is this.
How about no tax on tips? How about no tax on overtime? How about no Social Security? How about all those things? These are the kind of thoughts that will change America. I know what his goal is. No tax for anybody who makes less than $150,000 a year. That's his goal. And that's what I'm working for.
That's what we're working for. No tax, no federal tax on anyone making less than $150,000. Now,
say what?
I know. Now, this may be controversial. I'm not necessarily for that kind of plan. I don't think that's a good idea. I think everybody needs to be chipping in. I think it needs to be smaller. I'm all for the tax cuts, obviously. I don't want to see higher taxes, but I think everybody needs to be contributing because obviously, the ones that are making lower incomes, especially lower than $150,000, but the majority of those making way less than that are the ones that are majoritively on many of the social programs. So that would essentially create an actual redistributive nation of socialism, of the rich paying all the taxes, paying for the less fortunate individuals, and so on and so forth. I don't like that system. I think that we could do better with a fair tax, meaning get rid of all income tax and do solely on sales tax. I think we could do something different, something better. That's not conversation I really want to go down in depth today. But if that conversation continues, I think we need to have a deeper look at that. As a conservative, I'm not necessarily for a plan like that, although that may get a lot of pushback, which I'm more than happy to receive. You can email me at HoosierMediaNetwork@gmail.com. That being said, there is the budget debate that's going on right now, and the tax conversation is part of it because tax revenue for the government, aka government income, depends on how much is coming in to how much we can actually spend, or it's supposed to be. Because right now, our continuing resolution plan is essentially flat spending up until the end of the year, which leads us to our latest in
What's Trending Today.
The conversation for tomorrow. Will we see the government shut down? Now, remember, for decades, and I mean decades, Democrats have used the scare tactic that government cannot shut down or else social programs will end. People will die in the streets. We don't have any opportunity to receive our payments or whatever. Like, it is the worst of all worst scenarios for them, and they lose their minds when government shuts down. Now, they're really trying to play into the fact that we're not the ones trying to shut down the government. The Republicans are the ones trying to shut down the government, which doesn't work when you're in the minority. And Republicans have the majority in the House and the Senate. And in the Senate, Republicans passed their bill even with a 2-vote majority. And they passed it with not just their 2-vote majority, but with 80-plus Democrats that switched sides and ended up voting. And with over half of their delegation and their caucus actually supporting the continuing resolution as well. So if Democrats on the Senate side completely ignore it and don't vote on it whatsoever, it's on them. And they can't get away from that narrative. They don't know. Again, this is the new identity that Democrats have tried desperately to get away from and figure out what their new identity looks like, because they don't know how to respond to the fact that they are completely irrelevant right now. Chuck Schumer saying this yesterday.
Republicans do not have the votes in the Senate to invoke cloture on the House CR. Our caucus is unified on a clean April 11th CR that will keep the government open and give Congress time to negotiate bipartisan legislation that can pass. I hope our Republican colleagues will join us to avoid a shutdown on Friday.
Okay, so to break that all down, in case you're not aware, Chuck Schumer wants a 30-day extension. I don't know what you can get done in a 30-day extension. We literally give them 12 months to actually figure out an actual federal budget, and they can't even get that done in the appropriate time for an entire year. So I don't know what a 30-day extension continuing resolution would actually do, other than just kick the can down the road further and give them opportunity to try and squeeze in additional funding for their pet projects that they want. We've done it as a flat spending, 0% increase in spending across the board until the end of this fiscal year, which is the end of September, in which case we have the next 6 months to work on a federal budget with the 12 appropriation bills that we have to get things done the appropriate way. Will we see that actually get done at that time as well? I'm optimistic, but I'm not. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe. We have the Republicans that are in unison now, at least for the most part. Part two is that he lied completely, saying that the Democrats are unified right now.
To invoke cloture on the House CR.
That's what they're saying.
Our caucus is unified.
That's not the case. Apparently, headlines today from, what was this, thehill.com, I believe, that Kristen Gillibrand, the kind of moderate-ish Democrat, center-left slightly, and I think, did she go independent? I thought she went independent. Maybe it was somebody else. But she was apparently behind closed doors in the Democrat caucus screaming at the top of her lungs in a meeting that was regarding this continuing resolution. Now we hear today, after that bold statement from Chuck Schumer, that he is now loosening the girdle, so to speak, on the Democrats to allow the quote-unquote moderates to vote their conscience to not allow the government shutdown, recognizing that they don't have the power or influence to shut down the government and find a way to blame it on Republicans. They've been able to do that for oh so long. They don't know how to react in the situation that is now, which is they are irrelevant. They don't have the power. They can disrupt things, but they can't actually be productive in their own agenda. So they either shut down the government and it's on them, or they get on board with the Republican agenda. It's the only two options they have. So there's a plot at hand, and I think this is the new plot from the Democrat Party with our, let's see, Andy's predictions. Yeah.
Andy's prediction.
Here's the prediction of the day. There's a plot at hand right now for Chuck Schumer, because here's two scenarios. If they shut down the government, they can try and say, Republicans didn't work with us. It was too radical. We had to draw a line in the sand. They didn't come on board with us. But even the media is like, you guys are in the minority right now. You don't really have that kind of authority. You need to get on board. Republicans actually did their job. Surprisingly, and the first time for a while, Republicans actually did their job. They passed a bill out of the House. Republicans are unified in the Senate, except for maybe someone like Rand Paul, just like Thomas Massie. I don't want continual spending at the same level. I want it to go down. Understandably, there's nothing wrong with that, but he would be the only outlier that I see right now in the Senate that could potentially not vote for this continuing resolution, although I think Rand Paul also sees the common sense of needing to do this now, where not increasing is a good start, and then the next budget we can decrease. That being said, Democrats need to figure out what to do. They're going to look really wildly foolish if they don't get on board and vote for the continuing resolution when in the House they did split. They don't have that unified message, and over 80 Democrats voted for it there as well. That's a big indicator. To me, that's another mandate. That's a mandate from Democrats that says we don't want the government to shut down. If they do allow the government to shut down, they can try and go to the media and say Republicans didn't work with us, but that's really hard to sell right now in the PR mindset and the marketing that they have, or the lack of influence they have, because, again, they're in the minority. So how many Republicans do they really expect to come and vote for their ideas when Republicans do already have a bill in set? Now, if we didn't have anything, they could use that and say, you know what, Republicans didn't act. They don't have a bill in place. They don't have an alternative. We have the bill. Either get on board with us or else the government's going to shut down and it's your fault. They would have an argument then. But that's not the case. We do have a plan. We have a bill. And they have to get on board with that or not. And if they let the government shut down, then that tells the American people that government shutdowns are totally okay and that all of the hysteria that they've had for years, even all the way going back to the Bush and the Obama administrations and Trump #1, is that government shutdowns are totally okay, and that the hysteria about people not getting their paychecks, about not getting their Social Security, about not getting all these social programs, that all of that was fabricated and a whole bunch of what Joe Biden likes to say is malarkey. That would prove that it's not true. So they can't let that happen. And Chuck Schumer, who really tries to talk tough, Mr. Tough Guy from New York, we're going to stand here and we're not going to let the radical Republicans get away with their agenda. He's starting to realize that you can't do anything. You are powerless right now. And you either get on board and vote for it, or else this government shutdown will be on you. And all the hysteria about how bad government shutdowns will be on you, because you don't even have the presidency now to decide on what's going to be shut down to impact the American people the most, to say, look, this is what happens when government shuts down. You don't even have that authority, which is why now he's changed it, according to Breitbart News, making the comment that, well, now the moderate Democrats should be able to vote in their conscience to make sure government doesn't shut down if we can't get our agenda across. We have ours, but no one's liking it. And Democrats, well, I'm not going to do it in a unified manner, but you need to vote the way that you feel best in order to move this forward. Sounds like Democrats are caving. They don't have their unified voice, and they realize how powerless it is. This is monumental, because if we would have caved and we would have allowed Democrats to shut it down, or we would have got on board with an agenda that they wanted, kicking the can down the road for another 30 days, not getting anything done, not focusing on the new federal budget for the next year that we should be working on like right now. If we would have caved at all, then that would have given them power moving forward. We're shutting that you-know-what down right now. You don't have any authority. Get on board with our agenda. We're moving fast and furious, and you can be on board, or you can be the problem, shutting us down and shutting down the entire government. Your choice. But what's next for Democrats?
This is the Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier. When reason meets radio. This is the Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier.
Oh, my brain hurts. There's so much to talk about and so little time to do it. But here we are. Welcome back into it for your pre-Friday celebration. We are just kicking it, baby. Watching the Democrats squirm left and right. I teased as we went into the break about what the speculation is for the future of the Democrat Party. I have a theory as we get into our prediction of the day.
Andy's prediction.
And the prediction is that Democrats, in their desperation to try and find their new identity, they're going to go more radical, which, if that's what you want to do, all the power to you. Is that going to be the successful route for you? Probably not. I'm telling you, there's that civil war right now. John Fetterman is the quote-unquote, which, again, just blows my mind, the rational Democrat right now, the one willing to work with Republicans. He has, by the way, pledged to vote for this continuing resolution whenever they do it, today or tomorrow, whenever it is. But that's the only one that we know of so far that is on board to vote for this. We need at least 7 or 8 of them to get to that pesky number 60 in order to get past the filibuster vote. But that being said, what does the future of the party for the Democrats look like? We're starting to get an indication of that. Right now, and imagine the wording here, again, of what Chuck Schumer has told the Democrats. He has said, according to Breitbart News, the report says that despite Chuck Schumer insisting on an amendment vote on a shorter-term continuing resolution to give appropriators more time to negotiate a massive omnibus package, which is what they love, that he is giving his, quote, centrists space to vote to end debate and proceed to final passage. The centrists in the party, the moderates of the Democrat Party, he's giving them the leeway willingly, and he calls them that term of the centrist. Now, why is that important? I'd like to refer you back to the House of Representatives after they passed it, and 80-plus Democrats voted for the continuing resolution, where the Democrat Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries made this comment.
5 days ago, House Democratic leadership, Catherine Clark, Pete Aguilar, myself, all of us came out strongly against the partisan Republican spending bill because we understood that it was not a continuing resolution that maintained existing spending levels. It was a right-wing extremist wish list that would hurt the American people.
Whoa. Okay, so let's compile these two together here. Again, this is the prediction of what the Democrat Party is going to be doing next. We have Chuck Schumer saying that they're a unified party. They're not going to stand for it. We need 30 days. This is ridiculous. Republicans are just kind of strong-arming us. How dare you? Even though, they've strong-armed us for decades. And, you need to vote for us or else you're shutting down the government. It's all your fault. Like, that's what we've had to deal with for so many years. Now they don't have that authority, so they say we're unified. We're not going to vote for this. We have an alternative, just a 30-day extension. Hakeem Jeffries says it's not a continuing resolution that just keeps spending flatlined, but it's what did he call it? A radical right-wing extremist bill.
It was a right-wing extremist wish list that would hurt the American people.
I don't know what that means because it's literally just a bill that says even that ridiculous, absurd amount of spending that we're at right now, we're just going to maintain that and keep that going for the next 6 months to finish off the year. I don't know how maintaining current ridiculous, absurd spending levels is somehow an extreme right-wing wish list. But that terminology is interesting to me because after he said that, then 80-plus Democrats ended up voting for this bill. Now Chuck Schumer is allowing the quote-unquote centrists to vote for this and allow it to move forward in the Senate. What is the party doing right now when they're desperately trying to find unity within their party? It seems to me like they're trying to out some of their more moderate, center-of-the-road Democrat colleagues right now. They are planning on shifting that party hardcore to the left to play the victimhood against the Trump administration, and the only way to do that is to expose their moderate Democrat colleagues on who vote for these things to keep them going. Right now, saving face for the party to not allow the government shut down, but when the time is right, to oust them out of the party, to call them out for their moderate isms and try and rebrand this party as radical left, because apparently moderate Democrats are now voting for a right-wing extremist wish list, and they're going to be deemed as radical extremists as well and kicked out of the party.
This is the Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier. Truth, reason, and common sense. This is the Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier.
To disagree a little bit, because I agree with you that he should have countered The Pocahontas thing is just stupid. And by the way, there's such snowflakes on the right. If you say anything about them, they're going to the lawyers in 2 seconds, you know. But he can call people any names he wants. But what I would say is that I bet you anything that this podcast is listened by Newsom's fans, by liberals.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. I love playing them every once in a while just to get what's going on in the world. They're crazy. I mean, when the view's out there saying, Republicans just like to sue you whenever you mean. Snowflakes. Sorry, we don't like to have pictures of our heads decapitated and think that it's comedy and art. I mean, we do draw a line somewhere. Most of the time we can take a joke, and by golly, most of the comedians out there and the late night talk shows are very anti whatever we stand for. So, yeah, we have a sense of humor. We can take it. We just, don't like our heads decapitated like we saw with what's-her-face that ended up doing that to Donald Trump in 1.0. Just drawing the line somewhere on like violence and abuse and advocating for, a complete toppling over of the assassination of a president. I would think that would be something that we would take seriously, but no. Golly, I want to tell you about my friends over at Americans for Prosperity. As you know, now that we're going through this conversation of the continuing resolution, we're going through the tax debate for the end of this year with the Trump tax cut extensions and the ongoing Trump tax cut 2.0 conversation. No tax on tips, no tax on overtime, no tax on Social Security. And apparently now, according to our very own Commerce Secretary, he says that potentially we could be cutting all taxes at the federal level for anyone making under $150,000. Whatever these turn out to be, that Americans for Prosperity are there to try and keep your taxes low, to keep regulation down, keep spending down, and be able to focus on you, for you to be able to prosper. Go to protectprosperity.com, protectprosperity.com, sign up, get all the information, know who exactly to put pressure on, who to make calls to, and know that we want to see the Trump tax cut extensions and make them even permanent in the nation, which would be absolutely awesome. We're okay with that one. Go to protectprosperity.com. Great partners with us right here on the program and with Americans for Prosperity. All right.
What's trending today?
Let's get to our next guest on the program. With all of these conversations with tariffs, the economy, apparently inflation's going down already. Yeah, we're just under 50 days in? Yeah. What? Inflation's going down. We have gas prices low. And in fact, the headline I saw today, gas prices now as an average across the nation, the lowest since March of 2021.
Say what?
Just again to put that into perspective for you, that's at the beginning of the Biden administration when it was still Trump's economy where gas prices were low. Now we're already almost getting back to that level. Can we sustain it and can we maintain? That's the big question. What is the long-term goals and tactics for the Trump administration? Really happy to have on the program. He is the author of the latest book, Freedom Revealed, A Simple, Elegant System. Happy to have on here Donald Wilkie. Don, how are you, my friend?
Very good, Andy. Glad to be here.
Yeah, always good to chat with you, as always. It seems like the long-term game plan of Donald Trump, we're already starting to see the effects of right now, aren't we?
Yes, we are. And he's doing everything right.
which is nice. It's nice. It's causing a lot of a reset in everybody's panicking right now, but it seems to be working.
Yeah, Freedom Revealed. I want to just bring a few points up real quick. It's the first time anyone has ever looked at freedom as a system. Mm-hmm. And part of the system, of course, is the marketplace and government. And the marketplace is where we get prosperity from. Marketplace is a competitive system. Government is not a competitive system, and that's where we get waste. Yeah. So Trump is promoting the marketplace, and he's limiting government. He's doing exactly what we did at our founding. Everything right.
Yeah. What a concept. Yeah, we've been talking about I always like to use the analogy of the economy, and especially when, like under the Obama administration and even the Bush administration, when we do these massive investments, we print all this money, we do all these whatever they try to do to boost the economy at that time. It's almost putting these air bubbles like in a brake system. And when you have air bubbles in your brake lines, then your brakes don't work because you have to bleed the brakes to get the air out of these. Every time we print money and inject it into the economy in the sums of tens of billions of dollars, we create this air bubble pocket, and right now it seems like Trump is bleeding that out. When we cut the federal government size, when we lay off federal workers, when we cancel government contracts, when we allow workers in the private sector to do things from the private sector and not just take a government contract that's a redistribution of wealth, like you said, that's the way the private market is supposed to be. And in the long term, this market's going to shoot up faster than I think anybody else can imagine, won't it?
I believe so. What you have to realize is we come from nature. And nature is a competitive system. There's no waste in nature, and the mechanism that drives waste out of nature is, of course, competition. When you look at the marketplace, you realize the marketplace is also a competitive system and works identical to nature. And therefore, it's when we use money in the marketplace, we are eliminating waste. We are using it well. We are using every penny. It means something. When you switch over to the government side, of course, it's a non-competitive system, so government doesn't care about waste. Right. They don't care if money is wasted. So it's the nature of the beast, and it's really something we should all understand as we go forward, because then everything would become a lot clearer.
Yeah. It's a really great point. There was a comment that was made earlier today from Howard Lutnick, our Commerce Secretary, doing an interview talking about the tax plan for the future under the Trump administration.
How about no tax on tips? How about no tax on overtime? How about no Social Security? How about all those things? These are the kind of thoughts that will change America. I know what his goal is. No tax for anybody who makes less than $150,000 a year. That's his goal. And that's what I'm working for.
That's kind of wild. Don, what do you think of that? No tax, no federal tax for anyone making less than $150,000 a year.
I love it. But the interesting thing, the way I look at things, is that if the government gets less money, there's less money to waste. And Elon Musk is showing that with all the money government got, they were wasting with a vengeance. This whole concept of a non-competitive and competitive system is very important to understanding a system of freedom.
Yeah, we need to bring it back away from the private sector. Right now, DOGE continues to work on cutting tens of billions of dollars out of the federal government. The Department of Education has been in the news recently, obviously, with the executive order at first to eliminate the DOE, now to reform it essentially and kind of shift some of those powers and authority to other agencies and really almost cut the Department of Education in half right now. Do you see at the end of the day, Don, whenever this may be, whether it's by this year or the next year, whatever, do you see the complete elimination of the Department of Education under the Trump administration?
We can only hope. And again, what will happen is it will go back to the states. And how many states do we have? We have 50 states. So now we have 50 competing ideas. And we're going to find out what are the best ideas. Competition eliminates waste. It creates innovation. And as you can tell, I'm emphasizing this because it's so important. Yes, and the other thing we should do with welfare is put it all to the states too, have 50 different laboratories on how to administer welfare. Get it out of the federal hands. Get as much money as you can out of the federal government.
It's the way it was supposed to be originally, wasn't it? I mean, I don't know anywhere, unless you can correct me, Don, I don't know anywhere in the Constitution where it says government has specific powers to address these issues. But then we have this thing over here where it's like you can really do anything else that you want to just because we feel like we need to take care of people. Like, I don't see that in our Constitution.
No. We have to think about the function of government. And the purpose of government is to write laws, rules, and regulations. I mean, that's pretty simple. We also give them a secondary function, and that's to enforce the laws, rules, and regulations. So what we've given government, and it's necessary, I mean, it's almost you have to, is we've given them a perfect formula for arbitrary power. And at our founding, my guru, by the way, of course, is Benjamin Franklin. We were terribly afraid of arbitrary power, and we were the first country in human history to purposefully seek to limit government, and we did that through a strong constitution. It all ties together.
Yeah, really does. We're talking with Don Wilkie. He is the author of the latest book, Freedom Revealed, A Simple, Elegant System. You can find it on Amazon, also his website at donaldwilkie.com. Let's shift gears from the economy for a second, and let's talk about the deep state. Obviously, with these new cabinet picks, we are doing a deep dive into these different agencies, trying to find the corruption that's been there for oh so long, which is really nice. How deep do you think that we will be able to get under a Trump administration between Robert F. Kennedy Jr., between Kash Patel, and now Dan Bongino is his deputy secretary or deputy director of the FBI, with Pam Bondi, with all these new heads of these different positions? How deep are we going to get in exposing the deep state and getting rid of this infestation within our government?
Andy is a really, really, really good start. And I say start because I want to remind you of the words Thomas Jefferson used. He said, government freedom is constant vigilance. Mm-hmm. And my problem or my only concern with DOGE is they're going to end. And because government, of course, is a non-competitive system, once DOGE goes away, once the constant vigilance goes away, we're just going to go back to where we were.
Yeah.
So that's my only fear about that. But, yeah, great. These people look like they're interested. They look like they finally have a goal in mind to get rid of the waste. Yeah. And I'm all for it.
Wouldn't it be nice? Not just the waste, but the regulation, the government control over the private sector, the EPA looking at removing the waters of the U.S. rule, which has been back and forth over the years. We need to permanently make sure that does not come back again. So we have a lot of work to do, but we are on the right track here. Don, hang on the line. Got to take a hard break. When we come back, I want to talk about how we continue down this road, how we bring back this freedom that we're supposed to have, get the government back to the level it's supposed to be at. Is it feasible? Is it a pipe dream? What's the next step for the Trump administration and this golden age that he wants to bring in? We do that with one more segment right around the corner for the pre-Friday celebration here on The Voice of Reason. Stay here.
This is The Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier. America's safe space for common sense. This is The Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier.
I will say that I personally have checked in. They are going through it. You have to be patient because when you are wanting to prosecute and actually do something with the information that you have to make sure that you save the integrity of the investigation so that we can bring these people to justice, so that we can hold grand juries, so that we can do certain things. You have to be careful. The value for the American people to know immediately would undercut, we have to do it. We have to expose it. And we're going to be transparent 100%.
So that was Alina Abba. She is obviously the attorney for Donald Trump, talking about the Epstein files, kind of a botched release of round number one when it came to releasing those Epstein files, according to Pam Bondi, Attorney General. They say that they were going to do this massive dump. We didn't really get a whole lot of information. That was just as of a day or two ago from Helena Abba. We have more. We finally got the tens of thousands of documents from the FBI office in New York. The head guy there ended up resigning because of wanting to hold on to this and not following the orders of the FBI and the Department of Justice. So he's resigned. We're now going through it. Kash Patel apparently combing through this. They say it will be edited and redacted quite a bit with more information on what they call as both national security concerns and with the concerns of those that were victims within the scenario. So I don't know how much we're going to get here, but she says they're going through it very thoroughly. Because they're looking at it from a legal standpoint of how to actually go after the individuals that are involved in this, as opposed to just doing the document dump for the public. That's interesting. We're talking with Donald Wilkie. Freedom Revealed is the latest book. Don, as we talk about trying to clean out this deep state and some of the corruption inside, that's been part of this. How much of this information do you think we're actually going to get out from these Epstein files?
Well, it's our government, right? And we should get 100%. But I understand there's always conditions and problems, but I'm hoping we get a great deal of information out. It's our information after all.
Yeah, I would think so. We're supposed to. Now, I know that the trust in government is obviously very low. We don't trust really anything government says. I am more trusting with this new cabinet, with the new Trump administration, where if they say, hey, wait a little bit longer and we'll get you this information, I'm more optimistic. At the same time, Congresswoman Anna Paulina Luna from the state of Florida has created their task force on transparency, where they say they're investigating and going to be releasing information on the Epstein documents, on UFOs and UAPs, on the 9/11 documents, on the JFK assassination files. I mean, like you said, it's our government. I want to see all of this information unless it physically puts someone in harm's way right now because of an operation that, okay, I don't need to know about. Outside of that, I think we should know just about everything else going on in the government, don't you?
Absolutely. There's nothing more important than an educated populace in a free system. I mean, you have to know what's going on. Otherwise, you're not going to have freedom anymore.
Yeah. It's a great point. We got just about a minute or so left here, Don, but what's the future of Democrats? Right now, they're balking on whether they're actually going to support this continuing resolution, let the government shut down, which to them, they said was like the worst case scenario ever.
We're all gonna die because of you!
We can't do that. Can't allow the government to shut down. But now they're the ones threatening to do that. They're trying to find their identity. How do we become a party that doesn't have any influence and power, essentially irrelevant right now? Did we go too far radical? Are they figuring that out, or are they still trying to feel in the dark right now to figure out who they are now?
Well, the Democrats have been the party of big government. And the last election really was an election between big government and limited government.
Yeah.
And fortunately, the limited government side won. And we have to stop being so government-centric and thinking about government all the time and become more marketplace-centric. And that is exactly what Trump is trying to move us to. He's trying to talk to us about the marketplace. That's where we create prosperity. That's where we have a good life. And the Democrats, they said, well, the big government, we lost. What do we do now? I really think they're sort of lost in the desert. They don't know which way to go.
Yeah. It's a great point. Last question for you. That leads to the Republicans now. We have midterm elections next year. Obviously, a lot of times the pendulum swings the other way, but with the momentum we have with the Republicans, and if we do what we say we're going to do and follow through with these commitments, I don't see Republicans losing that momentum or losing any seats in the midterms next year. Do you?
President Trump has to address the public. He has to educate them. He has to inform them that the marketplace is a competitive system and government is a non-competitive system.
Yeah.
Nobody wants a non-competitive system because it only creates waste. And if we get that, I don't see how any Democrat is going to win.
Bring the freedom back, baby. It's what we're all about, and we're exposing the other side for what they've taken away from us for oh so long. Go check out the book. It is Freedom Revealed, DonaldWilkie.com. Also find it on Amazon as well. Don, we appreciate the time very much, my friend. We'll do it again soon.
Thank you, Andy.
You betcha. Always a pleasure. Until then, back at it tomorrow for a Friday. We'll see whether the government stays open going into the weekend, plus a heck of a lot more. It's The Voice of Reason. I'm Andy Hoosier. Be your own catalyst for change. Be your own voice of reason. We'll see you on the radio. Bye.